I apologize for the disconnect. This was the slide I was last speaking to in terms of showing a sample of our nearly 500 customers around the world. We're represented in over 40 countries now around the world, so the type of collaboration that goes on with these companies, whether it be large media companies, dedicated engineering firms, is whether it's regional, national, or global, the Panzura solution for centralizing that data and enabling collaboration takes place no matter what the distances are, and it really delivers the land speeds across the WAN, regardless of distances involved in between. And we'll get into that a little bit more. One thing that nearly every one of these firms has in common as well, especially the AEC firms, is that the Panzura solution is an intelligent cloud controller and global file system that front ends a cloud back-end storage. So 98% of these companies all use Amazon Web Services S3 as their back-end.
So these are AC tables, and we got a 10-foot booth. I know. How does that happen? I don't know.
Hey, Mark?
Yes.
Mark, you need to mute. We can hear you, sir. Okay. We roll along. So we'll move forward here. But the takeaway here is that this solution is applicable and quite viable and delivers tremendous value across all industries, but especially in collaboration-intensive industries like AEC. We have over 100 AEC firms now using Panzura. This past fiscal quarter, we signed 27 new customers up from the AEC space, and are quite well represented here with activity here in the Southeast. Here's a couple of use cases just to express the impact that Panzura brings, and then we're going to get into the deeper details of what the centralized data solution actually involves. So Panzura is used in small companies, medium-sized companies, and large companies. And a couple examples here. So the Department of Justice on the left represents a very large customer, 265 sites worldwide. Their issues were around perpetually running out of storage and having a very difficult time collaborating and finding the information. So all their prosecutions for antitrust cases like Enron and Microsoft, all that data is stored on top of Panzura. We are the only vendor that brings FIPS 140-2 certified compliant encryption to the game, which is required for government use. So now does DOJ use our solution, other secure and classified agencies inside the federal government also use Panzura as well. They have the opportunity now, the results is that they've got fully elastic storage on the back end. Think of it as a utility on the back end, that they're only paying for what they need, and they get instant access to additional storage without having to even pick up the phone call. They simply just consume it, and they will just pay a slightly higher bill for that particular month involved. They were able to strip out $9 million in spend each year instead of having to buy and to deploy and support tremendous amounts of storage that they weren't using. They're able to go with a utility type of approach and save a tremendous amount of money. And finally, they were able to have Panzura provides true lights out management of the storage presentation, meaning that the IT team does not have to get involved with allocating more storage and for making sure that the data that the users need is active and local and quickly accessible. That's all done automatically by the Panzura solution. Now, more germane to our audience today, CNS companies, a mid-size ENR 500 firm based up in the Northeast with 16 locations across the country, and they're suffering with some of the classic AEC challenge problems across multiple offices trying to collaborate on projects and design. Having issues with file open and close, Revit sync with Central, and really challenged with rising network costs. They worked for 18 months trying to solve that problem by making further investments with their WAM optimization with Riverbed, with their MPLS network, trying to buy faster storage, all to no avail, did not solve the problem. And we're going to get into specific use case at CNS where we spent a lot of time really understanding the nature of the applications involved and how they operated and how Panzura would solve that problem. So what Panzura brings to the equation is Panzura looks like to the local office just as another Windows file share, as a file server. All the data, the master copy of the data is stored in the Amazon cloud. The active data, the active projects that you're working on are cached in the local Panzura appliance, and it performs just like it does today. So your users, if you're a user or you have users, there's no change in user workflow. They come in, fire up their workstation, begin working on a Revit model or a Civil 3D model or an ArcGIS model, and there's no change in their workflow. They're oblivious that Panzura is even there. They're just going and getting their data off the file server, and that file server just happens to be Panzura instead of the file server you have there today. The file open problem, the sync with central problem was completely eliminated. Eric Quinn, the director of IT and former CAD engineer at CNS, was able to save $400,000 a year. He was able to no longer make any more investments in Riverbed. He was able to not have to purchase a new SAN. He's actually able to completely retire their MPLS network because Panzura connects directly to the internet. Backups and archives are built into the Panzura system, and they've got a tremendous amount of DR protection capability built into the solution as well. We'll talk about, so their need to replicate all this unstructured file data completely went away. So it freed up a tremendous amount of time, and it saved a tremendous amount of money, and it solved their collaboration problem. And we'll talk about that in a little bit more detail. So the overall solution goals for that Panzura is striving for is set by centralizing your storage and creating a consistent experience amongst your users no matter where they're located. This is getting that land speed of the application no matter where you're sitting, what office you're working in, and who you're collaborating with within the firm. Maintain your existing workflow so the users don't have to learn something new or different, which is exactly what everybody wants, and the opportunity to really simplify your IT infrastructure and strip out costs. Really the goal being to get AEC firms not to have to be in the IT infrastructure business as much and really focus on your core competencies, which is engineering and design and delivery of projects, being able to build more hours, be more efficient and more profitable. And those are the very deliverables that Panzura brings to the table. So let's talk about what a couple of classic CAD use case challenges are. We've got a couple applications here that we're going to highlight here. And really the issue gets down to time, about the file open and close and the sync with central types of issues and the impact on productivity and costs and efficiency that occurs. What the real issue is, and we spent about 18 months digging into these key applications and really understanding how they worked and understanding how all the system calls, all the syncing, and all the subroutines that go on that the user doesn't necessarily see, but it is the root cause as to why these applications take so long to open and they take so long to sync, because they're very, very chatty applications, and the issue comes down to latency, not to bandwidth. And the way to solve that problem is to solve the latency problem, because copying these files necessarily themselves, whether it be something as small as a meg-and-a-half file or even something that may be tens of megabytes or even up to hundreds of megabytes, with reasonable bandwidth that most people have, that doesn't take long to actually do. The problem is that these applications go back and forth hundreds or thousands of times to execute these file opens, file closes, and syncs. So we actually went in and put a sniffer on the application on Civil 3D and actually watched all the things it did and how long it took to sync from San Antonio to New York to sync with Central and do a file open here. We took a very modest file size, only 1.5 megs, to really illustrate the problem that latency is the issue, which only gets more acute the larger the file size gets. But even with something as modest as 1.5 megs, you can see that the time that's involved here for all these different steps that are involved with the file open takes minutes, many minutes for each of these steps, and for an overall total time of 22 minutes because of the latency involved, 43 milliseconds in both directions. Now, by introducing Panzura into the equation, because Panzura is presenting that data local to the user, and they're getting that active data immediately right next to the compute, you're able to reduce that file open time tremendously, because With latency, the issue is distance, right? You want to present that data local. When increasing the bandwidth is, like in the example, if you're driving from Atlanta to New York, and you have to make that trip 4,000 times, adding 16 lanes to the highway is not going to get you there any faster, assuming you're not driving through gridlock conditions. What you need to do, that's exactly what happens with these applications. They have to go back and forth many times. And the way to solve the problem isn't by trying to broaden the bandwidth, which is really to make the road shorter. And that's what Panzura does. Panzura shortens the road. So instead of having to drive from Atlanta to New York, you're basically going to your hall closet to get the data and back. And that's exactly what we do. So we're moving this from minutes to seconds, in this case from 22 minutes to 8 seconds with Civil 3D running on Panzura. You get a consistent experience. This isn't just for one user in one office. This is for any user in any office that has Panzura presenting that data locally. Additional bonuses that the customer receives and the user receives is that you get continuous data protection and replication going on. There's 10,000 snapshots built into the Panzura appliance for backups and for self-service user point-in-time restores. So if you lose or have a corruption or need to bring back another model, you can do that very quickly yourself within a matter of seconds with mouse clicks. The Amazon cloud provides tremendous data resiliency and data protection from a DR standpoint. We'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute. But also the impact this has on your existing network. Because we do global deduplication, only the changes made to the model are being sent up to the cloud as terms of updates. You're not pushing the entire workload back and forth across the network. So as a result, you're taking tremendous pressure off of your existing networks, which is areas where our customers see a lot of opportunity for savings and opportunities to even retire things like MPLS networks if they don't have other requirements to continue to maintain those. So a quick summary of the Civil 3D use case we just talked about, so that even with WAN optimization and hot WAN optimization, doesn't have a significant impact on the file open times and the productivity hit that your users suffer trying to collaborate between locations. And again, the issue is latency. Moving a 1.5 meg file can be done in 2 seconds with just a modest 6 megabit link. So the issue, again, it's not about bandwidth, it's about latency and attacking the real problem involved. Very similar situation with Revit. Revit, one of the chattier applications, more complex applications, very large models, and need for a lot of people collaborating at the same time. Panzura invests tremendously in the engineering space and engineering application, unlike other vendors out in this general community and space trying to solve this problem. We have engineering application experts on staff, on our R&D and our software development environment. And we test these applications to make sure that every release of our Panzura global file system, one test that would be pertinent for this audience, we do a simultaneous 10-user sync to central test every single time to ensure, among other tests, to ensure these applications perform up to scratch and really beyond the range of most of our medium-sized users. So in this case, it was a 170 meg file for an airport project in the Northeast, and you're running into the same kinds of issues. The challenge Revit obviously is the sync to central. That happens a lot. Oftentimes, customers with large models, especially get close to project close, the sync doesn't even work, and you're failing sync. It's impacting submittal times, and as you add more users, the problem gets worse and worse. The needs for collaboration are only going up, both internally with outside partners. So this is an issue that's front and center for a lot of our AEC customers and large engineering shops. The other impacts that affects our customers is that engineers are trying to get their jobs done, and they're saving models off on their local workstations. You're getting a lot of different versions. You're increasing your size of your storage footprint. It becomes a real BIM coordination nightmare. So very much like we saw before, the sync with central is going down from tens of minutes down to seconds. You're always writing local, and you always have all of your data managed central with Panzura. So looking in the center here, your Amazon cloud is in the center. That is your one golden authoritative copy managed by Panzura, and you've got the continuous data protection. And we'll talk a little bit more about the details of the application of the solution here in just a couple slides. One takeaway here, the official Autodesk Revit architecture book that was published in 13-14 and the current edition of 15 by Eric Wing, his comment, his observation was Panzura is just crazy fast running Revit, which is, we certainly appreciate his sentiments on our investment, making sure Revit runs really, really fast and efficiently. So again, summary here, the impacts of optimization for WAN optimization, really negligible. Again, the problem being latency. So let's get into what the real secret sauce that Panzura is bringing to the table here. What Panzura is doing is presenting your unstructured data storage, the active data locally. So think of these. Here we're showing international locations. So think of them whether in the context of your particular firm and the work that you do, whether it's regional, national, or global. A Panzura appliance would be placed in each of those offices and caches the active data that your engineers are working on, your active project data. The unstructured data out there that you're using today, so your engineering files, this could be your Microsoft documents, Word, Excel, all your non-database storage, our customers typically will put onto Panzura. 90% of that data has not been touched for 6 months or more. And these are consistent numbers that we see from Gartner Group observations for the last 10 years. It's consistent with all my experiences at EMC, and when it's consistent with all the file system assessments that we run with our customers, that very much is the case. Ranges somewhere between 7 and 10% is active. So that data, the other 90% then is not being touched or utilized, but it's tying up your tier 1 storage, and you're paying for that to reside on site, even though you're not utilizing it but once in a blue moon. That data is all, that authoritative copy is put out on the cloud. You're caching the 10% that you are using all the time, so you have that instant performance, and you're putting the overall footprint, which is globally deduplicated by Panzura. It is encrypted and compressed, and it's stored out in the cloud. In this case, in many cases, the Amazon S3 cloud. As a result, you're only storing, Eric Quinn had 100 terabytes of data at CNS of raw overall unstructured data. By the time he got deduplicating it across all of his sites, compressing and encrypting it, it only took up a 20 terabyte footprint anymore. So he went from 100 to 20, and only at $30 per terabyte per month, his monthly storage bill is only $600 a month for a mid-level ENR 500 firm. So you can see why he was able to defer, not having to invest in the stand any longer. You get 11 nines of data durability and resiliency with the Amazon cloud. That data is stretched over data centers in infrastructure that is in the hundreds of millions of dollars investments with an Amazon, and it can be, you have access to your data 24/7 from anywhere, anytime. The magic is that our global file system provides all your users a view of all your data at any point in time. They can see everything. The global namespace, global file locking ensures that all applications, no matter what they are, one user can lock a file and be writing to it. Everyone else will have read permissions until that edit is done. Those updates, those change blocks then are sent up to the authoritative copy in the cloud, and you maintain integrity of the models, and you know you have one true golden copy of your data and not have dozens of versions of that particular model that you don't know what state that is and who's done what to whom. The global file system ensures that is the case for all applications and not just Revit, not just Civil 3D. Again, it's a lights out management for the operation of the company. You don't have to think about that any longer, that you don't need to have individual siloed solutions that take care of Revit optimization or file locking and so forth, is that you've got one solution that takes care of all of your unstructured data and really dramatically improves the performance of collaboration on these large data sets. So for engineering, for marketing, for sales, all get those benefits of having instant access to your data and the opportunity and the improved DR in the cloud and reducing your costs at the same time. So those are the benefits that our customers see, and that's really how we go about doing it. It's a global presentation of data overall, and your active data being cached and presented to the local office and the local user. Panzura's product line offering is very simple. We have appliances that are available both as a VM or as a physical appliance. The appliance is simply a caching device. It's actually made by Dell. They're available in different sizing based on the amount of data and number of users involved. But you buy the appliance once, and you pay for the ongoing maintenance of the appliance, and that is the only thing you have to buy to implement a Panzura solution. You contract directly with your cloud back end. We are not in the cloud storage business. That's what Amazon and Google and Microsoft do extremely well. And the benefit for our customers is that those companies have been in and will be in for some time a big war, storage war, which is driving the cost of storage quickly towards zero, which is exactly the opportunity that our customers get to realize. You get to realize the benefits of that, the drive to zero for storage, and be able to have control over that. So you simply get a utility bill from Amazon each month for your cost of storage. If you need more storage, you simply consume it. You don't have to call anybody, and you get a slightly higher bill. But at $30 per terabyte per month, it's extraordinarily cost-effective than spending tens or hundreds of thousands of dollars on storage that you're then going to have to refresh and pay maintenance on every 3 to 4 years. So in summary, this is about centralizing your storage and leveraging the new technologies that are out there today that aren't so new anymore. The cloud has been around for quite a few years. It's become very mature. It's got very high reliability and availability. You know, from a DR standpoint, we'll back up one slide real quick, that the ability, we've had customers in the Northeast when Superstorm Sammy hit and wiped out their data center, flooded. They didn't have access to their data. They were simply able to go online. They drove across the river, got internet access and access to their data in the Amazon cloud in a matter of minutes. They didn't have to invest in a colo location and do replication of their data and have multiple data centers and all that cost and overhead. They're able to leverage the incredible data resiliency inside the Amazon cloud, who's made that investment to quickly be back up and running in a matter of minutes. If you lost a Panzura controller, that will be replaced in 4 hours by Dell. You simply point the users at the closest Panzura appliance, and they're immediately back up and running and have access to their data. But you always have access to the authoritative copy in the cloud 24/7, just via any internet connection. So in summary, it's about the benefits of centralizing your storage, what it does for the user experience, solving the file open, close, and sync with central challenges, not only for engineering, but for all aspects of your business. Collaboration within marketing, collaboration within sales, within administration, and having much more cost-effective and greatly enhanced data protection for that unstructured data across your entire operation, especially with your core business inside of engineering. Your workflow doesn't change, your user experience only improves, but they don't even realize anything has changed in the background. That's part of the magic there. Panzura does its business quietly and steadily in the background and requires no change in user behavior. And the opportunity that we talked about there for really simplifying and streamlining, getting you out of the IT infrastructure business and reducing your costs at the same time. So that at a very high level is an overview of Panzura and what the opportunity and benefits are for centralizing your storage and leveraging this new technology and approach today. And I appreciate everyone's attention and certainly welcome questions that you may have.
Great, thank you, Ken.
Sorry, go ahead, Todd. Do you have any questions that anybody sent in?
We do. We have a couple questions coming in. The first is there a mobile app available?
Yes, and I'll qualify what a mobile app can mean different things to different people. So our customers use, for a mobile app, I define a mobile app as a true mobile user, smartphone, iPad type of user, and our customers use Citrix ShareFile for that use case. Citrix has spent a lot of money, a lot of time. They're the leader in that space. It's extremely cost effective. Panzura presents itself as a file share, and Citrix simply points at that file share to access. So if you're on a job site and you want to bring up a drawing or a layout that you want to see on the job site, you need to do annotations, you need to upload progression photographs on construction. That is the perfect platform to do that with. Many of our customers already own it today. Don't need to reinvest in that, and that works tremendously well for our customers. So we have chosen not to go into reinvent the wheel, and to focus on where we can add considerable value, which is what we do. Now, for users that want to have full-blown, do full-blown 3D modeling, interact with Revit models and Civil 3D models, there's several ways they go about that today. They simply point at the closest Panzura if they're a remote user, if they're working from home, or they, for medium-sized locations, they'll put their smallest Panzura appliance there if they've got 2 or 3 or 4 power users there. And for people who are doing it more ad hoc and are moving around but still need to have access to the models, we have right now being tested, and it'll be available in the first half of next year, a cloud VDI solution that's integrated. Panzura is integrated in with the compute and storage services from Amazon, which provide a very high performance subscription-based approach, which is very cost effective for remote users and intermittent users that need to have full-blown access like they have their own workstation in place. What other questions do we have?
Yep. Is there a mobile app available to allow hiring a contract worker and getting him access to a central model?
Okay, so great question. Obviously, many AEC firms have to collaborate with outside partners on projects. Not an uncommon situation. So you have control through your Active Directory. If you're IT, you'll understand what that means. The Panzura integrates in with Active Directory. So all of your permissions that you have today in place simply just apply to Panzura, so you don't have to do anything different there. If you want to give permissions to an outside party via Citrix ShareFile to have access to your models, then you absolutely can do that. With nothing special needs to be done in that besides allocating permissions. If it's going to be a more ongoing and not ad hoc on a specific project for 2 or 3 years that you'll be working on together, we have a Secure Connect solution that's coming out next year that provides a secure connection and your ability to partition off so they can only see the relevant work to that project and not see your whole global file system, which you obviously would not want them to have. So that will be out in the first half of next year as well, along with the cloud VDI solution that we have in place today.
Great. Another question is, where does Panzura surpass Masuni?
Where does Panzura surpass Masuni? Well, very, very different beasts in that regard. As companies, very, very different in terms of maturity, in terms of companies, in terms of number of customers, in terms of penetration to AEC space. We really pioneered this space. In terms of technology and capability, Masuni really started into this space a little bit earlier this year after they saw the success of Panzura. They only recently, they just introduced their very first version of file locking, which is obviously critical in this space. It's very immature. It does not work with Revit, which is obviously a key application and growing in nature out there today. And they have said as much at recent AEC events, and actually have stated that to several of our customers. If you look at some of their documentation as well, they will talk about the need for management from a file locking and managing some of the issues that they have with that. We're in version 5.5 of our software. Masuni is in its infancy of file locking. It's something that we have patented the way we do it. We do it extremely well, and it works for all of your applications and not just for a handful of applications. So those are some key areas that we're different from the Sony in terms of our focus, in terms of our maturity and investment. We're an engineering and solution company, and not as much of a marketing company. And I think when our customers dig in and see what we do and how we do it and the references that we have, I would encourage you to go out and ask them for 3 or 4 or 5 references that are doing Revit across different offices. You probably won't hear much back from them in that sense. So it's really a level of maturity and commitment to the space is the big differences between us and the Sony.
Another question coming in is, what other cloud storage solutions does Panzura integrate with?
So we support all the three main cloud storage solutions out there. Amazon, Microsoft, and Google are the big players out there. Amazon is really the big dog. They have the most sophisticated solution offering, the best capabilities, the most maturity. Microsoft is coming on very strong. They've been pushing us very hard. We do co-development with all 3 of those vendors, but Microsoft has really been pushing very, very strongly. For customers who've got enterprise agreements with Microsoft, you may want to check and see if you've got some Azure credits there or available or that you can leverage and give yourself an opportunity to save even more money. But the cost of the storage itself these days has gotten so inexpensive, it becomes less consequential over time. But you do have a lot of leverage if you have an EA agreement with Microsoft. But all 3 of those solutions are good. I rank them probably Amazon is far and away the leader in all respects, followed by Microsoft and then by Google.
Great. Another question is, can we use our own storage like NetApp SAN?
Yes. So our approach is you can leverage your existing storage with different software solutions to enable that. CleverSafe is a solution that allows you to create your own private cloud using your own storage solutions, if you will. And there's also a solution from PipeVM to make that happen as well. We don't recommend it, and here's why, is that we have customers, certain federal customers that have private clouds, and if you have those types of requirements from a policy standpoint, then that's one thing. I wouldn't recommend it because it kind of defeats you lose all of the data resiliency, you lose the elasticity of the storage, and frankly the cost of the storage for the benefits that you get in the universal access of that data in the cloud. So some of the DR examples I was articulating previously. And if you lost your connectivity to that on-prem storage, then all of your other sites are down, and in terms of getting to the authentic copy of the storage, and the Amazon cloud doesn't go down. So that's why I would say yes, you can do it, but those are some reasons why that 99% of all the AEC customers we have, over 100 now, use the Amazon cloud for those reasons. So it's possible. It's probably not recommended, but we can certainly talk more about it if it's something someone's interested in exploring.
Does Panzura work in China?
Yes. We are in China and we're in 40 other countries around the world.
Great, and it looks like that is all of our questions that are coming in.
I'll leave everyone with this thought too. Panzura deploys very quickly. It's incredibly simple and non-complex to manage from an IT standpoint because it simply looks as another Microsoft file system out there and integrates in with your Active Directory. So I appreciate it does its magic and its software on the back end, and really appreciate everyone's interest and attention, and happy to talk with anyone further along with Applied if the interest is there. So thank you for your time and attention today.
Let me just add. This is Mark Legaski. Thanks, Ken, for taking the time. I'm sorry for the technical difficulties again, in my frustration with setting up for a trade show at the same time. So if you do want more information, you would like a more detailed conversation, demonstration, discussion, just reach out to Applied Software, and we will be happy to oblige. And with that, if there's no other questions, again, thanks everybody for taking the time, and hopefully we'll talk to you soon. Thanks.